Okay guys, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Now, fasten your seatbelts. Here we go. Okay guys, well, it's Tuesday, August 4th, and I am delighted to be here with you. We're going to get into the news. It is 9:54 p.m. Eastern Time. I hope everyone is doing well. All right. Now, I'll tell you, I've been into this whole blast in Beirut thing today, really deeply, looking through things. I was absolutely horrified when I saw it. If you haven't seen it, I'm going to have some clips for you coming up. But it is literally horrifying. And as soon as they said, oh, it's a fireworks factory, I thought, I don't believe that. Not for an instant. You can see the whole ground swell with the shockwave that was sent out, and it was heard 250 kilometers away, the blast, and it rattled windows that far away, believe it or not. It has leveled a good portion of the blast area, and there's a lot of casualties, a lot. I think they were saying 70 dead, but you know, there's no way that there's only 70. That's probably the only people that have been identified so far. It's going to make it very difficult to identify the bodies. I saw one program where, or one video where they were going into the blast area and there were bodies littered everywhere. I'm not going to show you that tonight, although if you look hard enough for it, you can find it. I just don't want, I don't want to be banned, number one, and number two, you know, if that was my loved one that was lying there in pieces, I certainly wouldn't want people gawking at it, at their body. I really wouldn't. So I think it's very disrespectful and I don't want to show it. So anyway, I hope you will understand that. But let's just go through some of these things that I have found, and I want to show you what happened there, and then we'll find out the rest of the story. Right. I knew there was a rest of the story as soon as I saw that blast. Now, this is the actual blast. It says this is the most terrifying frame of the Beirut explosion. And let's come down here farther because that's not the one I was aiming for. All right, let's look at this. Hang on here. Let me get this back and make it bigger for you tiny phone people, because I want to make sure you see too. You know, it's not fair to show things to others and not to the tiny phone people. So let's just look at this here. Now you can see, you know, small explosions down here happening. Yeah, that does not show the ground, the shock wave as well as some of them do, but it gives you an idea. And that red smoke, apparently, I've got something in here that explains what that is, that red stuff. It was actually the same thing that was used for the Oklahoma City bombing, the nitrate or whatever it is. I'll find out. I've got it here. I just can't remember. It's nitrate, I think. So anyway, let's just go on here because there's a lot to get to when it comes to this, and I do have other news as well. So let's take a look at this. We'll come back to the one on the top. All right, this is it from another angle. So I'm going to make this bigger first before I do anything. And here we go. That doesn't show the shock waves as well either, but that's a massive cloud. Massive. Now, I don't know what they're saying, but I can guess. I can guess what they're saying. And let's come back here and get the next one. Yeah, this is the aftermath of the explosion. So we're going to take a look at these because these are kind of high resolution photographs, whereas some of the others are not. This is the immediate blast area, but the devastation goes for a long way out from it. Look at that. These buildings are just leveled. All right. And this is down further away from the blast site. You can see these roofs are blasted off. The windows are gone. You know, there's a lot of damage here, a lot. And that's why, you know, at first they were saying, as soon as this happened, I mean, I was all over this as soon as it happened. And they said there's been no deaths. And I thought, not a chance, not a chance there's no deaths. And then, of course, as time went by, they started saying, well, there's 20 people dead, there's 30 people dead, there's 50 people dead. Now it's 70 last time I checked, but it's probably much higher now. Anyway, you can see by the looks of this, there's just no way that there's that few of people dead. Also, there are thousands of people injured. They are treating people actually in the parking lot to the hospitals, because the hospitals have been damaged as well. And I'm going to get into the rest of the story. This isn't just an explosion, end of story, let's go on. No, not at all. So, and here is another showing, this was in the immediate blast area. You can see the smoke still lingering there. And it flipped over cars, it burned out cars. I mean, it looked pretty bad. And actually I saw another video someone had taken where they were going down the street showing the blown out cars, and they had people in them that weren't moving. So we can assume that they are deceased or unconscious at least, but I don't think from the look of the cars that they survived it. So let's go on now. Just make sure that there's nothing else down here. And this is heartbreaking for the people there. Very, very heartbreaking. It's all right. Now, this says, please pray for Beirut explosion in Lebanon. They are in excruciating pain and extreme trying times with multiple explosions rocking the capital city. Now, this is the first time I saw mentions of multiple explosions, but when we looked at that, you could see the little explosions happen before the big one. And apparently, I don't know if there were any fireworks in there. I don't think there were. It was a firework place, but that's not what they were storing in there, from what I've heard. And probably the stories will change a bit over time, but this is a picture of, I guess it's either an office building or apartment building, but you can see the windows are blown out for miles and miles and miles and miles. So yeah, this was a big blast. Well, you can see, look at the devastation here, and you can tell how big an area this is by the size of the cars. Look at how these teeny tiny cars, talk about your teeny tiny phones, these are teeny tiny cars here, and look at this area. And that's not even, that's the immediate vicinity of the blast, but that's not the area. I mean, the area that's damaged goes way into the city, and also they felt it across the water in Cyprus, which is 250 kilometers away, I believe. I think that they felt the shock of it anyway. So yeah, this is a major deal. This isn't just a small explosion. And let's go back here and take a look. Okay, Marwan Aboud, governor of Beirut, arrived at the site of explosion where he broke down in tears. He told reporters that firefighters came to fight the fire and then they vanished. We don't know where they are. So there was an initial fire there, and you could see there was explosions happening. Of course, that would have caused the fire alarms to go off and to the firemen to jump to their trucks and go to try to put out the fire. Well, obviously, they got caught in the explosion, and they are unaccounted for at this time, which is tragic. And again, here is another picture. And it says, it looks like what happened in Japan, in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. That's what it reminds me of. And actually, it's the 75th anniversary of that, coincidentally enough. Anyway, it's not related that I know of, but we are going to make some connections here. Anyway, it says it looks like what happened in Japan, in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. That's what it reminds me of. I've never seen destruction on this scale in my life. Beirut Governor Marwan Aboud cries as he explains to a journalist the scene of the destruction due to the explosion. I would cry too if that was my city. And makes me want to cry just looking at the aftermath and the people hurt and worse. So let's go back here and let's look at this. Now, I'm not forgetting that right here. We're going to come back to this right here. It's going to tie some of this together. So, where was I here? I think right here. All right. Now, if you noticed from the explosion, immediately after the massive explosion, there was a deep red-orange smoke. Well, it says deep red and orange smoke and flames are a product of strontium and sodium, just in case you all wondered. Yes, strontium is radioactive. So when I read that, it got me thinking, okay, if that was radioactive, if what exploded was radioactive, then the explosion is the worst of their problems, because that radiation is going to carry all over the city, across the water to Cyprus. It's going to, I mean, they felt the blast in Damascus. This is huge. So I don't know, but it's not good. Anyway, it says fireworks date back to about the same time as the discovery of gunpowder. Well, this is when they were telling everyone that it was from fireworks, but I don't believe that it was fireworks. There may have been some fireworks stored there as well, but it was a weapons. They were storing weapons there is what they were doing, and we're going to get to that. Anyway, the deep reds are a product of strontium. Blues come from copper, yellows require sodium, and bright greens are made with barium. More colors can be created by mixing compounds. Orange is produced by a mixture of strontium and sodium. So I don't know much about fireworks other than I like to watch them. But yeah, and actually I have a fireworks factory, oh gosh, just down the street, actually, not too far. So yeah, like on this side is housing, and then on the other side there are some industrial places, and one of them is a fireworks factory. So I hope nothing happens there, ever. All right, so let's go back now. I'm just trying to hit on different things to give you an idea of what I found and what I was looking at, and the things that I found about what this was possibly. And let's go back here. Now, this is good because it shows the damaged areas. It says the damaged area after the explosion in Beirut is very wide. Thousands of families lost their houses. Thousands of families lost their houses. And probably that includes the apartment buildings that were, leveled in some cases. I don't know if any were leveled. I don't know. But I saw many that were completely uninhabitable. And so this area, this dark red, that is widespread destruction right there. And that is the blast site. Then in this lighter red area, it sustained heavy damage. And the even lighter red, there was damage reported, but even way out here, windows blown out up to 15 miles away. Yeah. Then it says Lebanon's internal security chief says the blast was in a port area with highly explosive material. Explosion heard from 150 miles away. It's a big explosion. And we're going to go on here because we have more. Now, Says Beirut Indian Mission in Lebanon is in touch with the Indian community following the aftermath of powerful twin explosions in the capital Beirut. Indian envoy to Lebanon, Dr. Sual Ejaz Khan, speaking to WION, said, "We're in touch with the Indian community. We have advised them to what? I don't know. But let's take a look at, I wanted this for the pictures. So this is the immediate aftermath. I don't think there are any dead bodies in this picture because I did try to check to make sure. And this, see how this building is blown out. So this area, pretty much widespread destruction, but further out, there's still heavy damage sustained. And you can see from this picture on the ground the amount of debris everywhere, and casualties are numerous. There are so many videos coming out now of them treating casualties and so forth, which are not pretty to look at. And this is a car that's been on fire somewhere in the zone there. So let's go back here, see what else we have. I'm just trying to give you an overview because you probably won't receive that from the mainstream news, or you're going to probably get some misinformation. I don't know how they're going to spin it in the mainstream media because I haven't watched anything on mainstream. I've been trying to gain it from people that are actually there. All right, it says warning, blood. There's nobody dead here, but there are people injured, so I'm just going to warn you there is blood here. So let me get this bigger for you to see. So this is in town a bit. You can see a girl hurt here, and there's a lady with... So, yeah, and apparently the hospitals are damaged, so they are treating people. And this could even be the hospital because I saw somebody in a hospital gown there outside. So this could actually even be at the hospital. People are going there to be treated from shrapnel or whatever, the explosion, you know, turned everything into projectiles. And, you know, they're having to treat them outside because the hospital's damaged. I mean, really damaged, apparently. So, not a good situation on the ground in Beirut right now. And let's look at this. We are going to get into more of the... All right. Now, what we heard, now, I shouldn't say I didn't watch any mainstream media. I did read. I did watch on some mainstream media, like read articles online. I didn't actually turn the TV on or anything, but they were saying, oh, it's just nothing to worry about, just a fireworks factory that blew up. And as soon as I saw that, I went, I'm sorry, that's not a firework. That's not an explosion from fireworks. Sorry. So look at this. Better illustration, bomb can be seen approaching target. So let's look at this. And there, now I'm sorry, I know it's hard when you're watching my screen on my computer and you're on your phone. It's probably very difficult to see this, but these red circles are where, to look, obviously. Here is a dot, and a dot getting a little closer. And there's the dot even closer still. See, here's the second. There's one, whatever that is. It's a line of some sort, hydro line, some sort of line there. And the bomb missile, that's what it was. It's a missile right there. And there's the second wire. Well, here it's in between the first and second. Here it's past the second wire. And there, it's getting close to where the fire is already burning, and then you have the massive, giant fireball. Now, you tell me that's not anything to be concerned about? Don't believe you. Don't believe you. Just a little bit too coincidental for me. because you see it approaching. It's clearly approaching right into the area. There's already a fire there, and the fire people have been called, and they're on their way, or are probably already there, which I don't know. Was that the plan? I don't know. But yeah, so it gets closer and closer and closer, and then it disappears behind here, and you've got a giant fireball. So you tell me, do you think it was just fireworks that exploded? Yeah, because I don't believe it. Now, I'm not asking you to believe it. I'm just saying I don't. And I think that I'm justified in coming to that conclusion. And it said, looked like drones. And then it says, President just said it was an attack. And I would assume that's our president. So, yeah, there you go. Now, let's go back because there's more. So that is why I've come to the conclusion that, yeah. And I mean, as soon as I saw it, I went, no. Fireworks would cause a big explosion, no doubt. But in some of these pictures, you can see the ground. What you can see the shockwave and the ground move. Like, no, not fireworks. Okay, so let's come back here. And it says here is the likely target of the Beirut explosion. Now, who is this? Well, it's got a Canadian tie-in here because he is a Montreal businessman, very well liked, and I think he has an export business or an import business, one or the other, in Montreal, Quebec. So he is the general secretary of Lebanon's, and I'm not sure how to pronounce this, but Katab Party, and his name is Nazar Najarian, has died due to the blast. So he died due to the blast, and he was part of Lebanon's Christian Democrat Party. Christian Democrat Party. That is what he was the head of. And some believe he may have been the target. Don't know. But it's interesting, and it has a Canadian tie-in. Now, I've only read good things about him from the Canadian side, but that doesn't necessarily mean anything, because I'm sure that lots of people wrote favorably about Jeffrey Epstein, and I'm not trying to pin that on this guy at all, not at all. I don't think that there's any suggestions of that, but I'm just saying we don't know. It appears like he was, he was well respected in the Lebanese community in Montreal. I know that for a fact. So I don't know, but it's very interesting. Very. Now, okay, I can't remember if this may not be that. Oh yeah, we're going to come back to that. Okay, so now what I'm going to go up to is this. Up here, the first one that we skipped over because I wanted to give you an overview first. Update. Al Arabiya reports massive blast in Beirut was at ammunition warehouse belonging to Hezbollah terrorists. Now you know the rest of the story. It was a warehouse, an ammunition warehouse belonging to Hezbollah terrorists. But who blew it up? I don't know. I think that it's possible, very possible, maybe probable that it was Israel, because, they would blow that up to prevent Hezbollah, from using it on Israel. I don't know. I guess we will find out more and more in the days to come. But a massive explosion rocked Beirut, Lebanon on Tuesday, as reported earlier by Christina Leila. The national news agency reported that the explosion was at a warehouse for firecrackers near the port. Yeah, I've never seen firecrackers cause that kind of damage. Never. And I think it's pretty obvious as soon as you look at the explosion that it's not just fireworks. There may have been some in there. I'm not saying there wasn't, but not all fireworks. Powerful explosion has occurred in Beirut. It's not yet clear what caused the blast. Let's look at this. See how long it took for that to get to them where they were? That's a big, ugly explosion, if you ask me. Not that an explosion can be beautiful. Well, unless they were blowing up Epstein Island. I wouldn't be opposed to that, as long as they got all the wildlife off, because it would be a shame for the wildlife to die. But really, would you want to ever own that island after knowing what's happened there and what's beneath the ground and the possible fact that you are walking over the bones and remains of people? I wouldn't. Even though it's an island paradise, I don't think I could enjoy myself knowing that. I really couldn't. But I digress. Let's continue on here. So, but now there are conflicting reports, including a report at Al Hadith that claims the massive explosion was a Hezbollah warehouse in Beirut for missiles from Iran. You don't say. Al Hadith from Jordan reported, translated, security sources said 2 explosions occurred in Beirut, leaving 1 wounded. The Lebanese Minister of Health confirmed that a large number of people were injured. Thousands. They're saying now that there are thousands injured. And last time I checked, it was 70 dead, but that has got to be way, way higher by now. The site of the accident was reportedly inside the port of Beirut, specifically Ward 12, a warehouse for explosives. The massive explosion damaged the glass of buildings in most parts of Beirut and injured hundreds of people. No, it's literally thousands now. And that's coming from official sources. It looked like the mother of all, the mother of all bees. 2-minute compilation video providing different angles. So let's take a look at this right now because we can. Whoa. This is just a compilation of different videos that were taken. The explosion literally blocked out the sun for a moment. You could actually see people airborne in that one. That look like fireworks to you? Now that looks like fireworks. Unbelievable. So, yeah. So Al Arabiya reported that the blast was an ammunition warehouse belonging to Hezbollah. Breaking Al Arabiya News Network reports that the Beirut blast was in an ammunition warehouse belonging to Hezbollah terrorist organization, Beirut. And Lebanon Prime Minister Hassan Diab says that those responsible for an explosion at a dangerous warehouse in Beirut port area that rocked the capital will pay the price. Lebanon's PM, okay, well, we just read that. Update, facts about this dangerous warehouse that has been there since 2014 will be announced, and I will not preempt the investigation, says Lebanon's PM Hassan Diab in a televised address to the nation following the explosions at Port Beirut. And that's about all we have for now. But yeah, this wasn't just an innocent little explosion at a fireworks factory. Not that that wouldn't cause a massive explosion and probably a lot of damage, but nothing like that. Not a chance. So I'm going to stay on top of this. I really am, because I'm interested in the Canadian connection here. And yeah, I knew there was a lot more to this story, and it didn't take much digging to kind of dig underneath a bit and find at least some anomalies, you know. So anyway, now we are going to go on with the other news, even though we've taken a lot of time with this, but hopefully, you know, I think it's important. So, all right. Now we are going to continue on, and we're going to go here, the one that I tried to go to earlier, but okay, breaking, the FBI, lots of stuff happening, man. There's a lot of stuff happening. The FBI raiding a Cleveland office linked to Ukraine. Biden, Pelosi, Kerry, and Romney all had sons getting tens of millions of dollars from no-show jobs in Ukraine. This is a developing story. Yes, yes it is. And I'm glad to see that. I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one. If I am, I would be shocked. All right. And let's look at this sorry piece of work. This is from Mark, Thin Blue Line Safarik. This is Karen Sodaro, one of the suspects who permanently blinded 3 federal agents in Portland. She's wanted by the FBI. Well, I wanted to make sure as many people saw this as possibly could. So if you see this woman who looks like a man trying to look like a woman, then please let the FBI know. She has permanently blinded 3 federal agents with the laser pointer. And that is what they're doing to the police now. Can you imagine? You're just trying to make a living. You go to work, you put the uniform on, you vow to keep the public safe, and you do your best. Most police officers, not all, most. And you know, it's not bad enough that you have to risk having your car burned out, being beaten to a pulp, being shot. Now you've got to worry about losing your eyesight forever because of a little tart like this. Yeah, I could have thought of much worse things to call her, but I won't. Can you imagine that? So 3 federal agents who probably all have families, possibly, at least one of them probably does, 1 or 2 have families, and they're now permanently blind. Could you imagine all of a sudden having eyesight one day and the next you're totally blind and you have to relearn everything? I can't even imagine that a human being would care so little for another human being that they would do that. Well, I guess if they shoot them and throw bottles and rocks at them, then I guess, and incendiary devices, I guess laser pointer is nothing new. But anyway, if you see this woman who looks like a man, who looks like a man trying to be a woman, I don't know, maybe it's a woman, but if it is, I can see why she's mad. I'd be mad too. All right, let's go on. And here's some very important news. Very important. How important? Extremely. Breaking. Sounds like Durham is done. Trump has seen the goods. Breathtaking. Wow. Now, let me get this bigger for the tiny phone people. They deserve to see it too. Come on, guys.
Breaking news tonight, President Trump telling us just moments ago on this broadcast what he is hearing about the Justice Department investigation of Obamagate.
We caught them spying. Now it's up to our Attorney General. As you know, I wanted them to do it. I didn't want to get overly involved. Maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't. But I do hear it's breathtaking what they found. That's all I can say. Breathtaking. And hopefully it'll come out soon. But it's beyond what anybody ever thought even possible how bad it is. How bad it is and how corrupt it is. But I'm going to let them do that. I'm not going to do that. It's a horrible thing that took place. And it should never be allowed to happen to another president.
That's right. Now, that should make you. That should be a. Hang on here. Sorry.
Trump telling us just.
Stop. That should encourage you, right? Shouldn't that encourage you? I mean, it encourages me. So, and I don't think that Trump is stupid enough to get on TV and pump it way up and then have it drop like a lead balloon when it actually comes out. I just don't think why would he do that? Because you know that they would mock him if he did that. So I think that Trump, well, obviously he's seen it. He knows what it contains, and he's saying it's breathtaking, and that it's really truly worse than anyone imagined. So, yeah. I'll be looking forward to that coming out. I hope all that comes out before the election. Could only hurt, it could only help him and hurt Biden. Okay, well, let's go back because we've got more. No, really, we do. Hang on, I've got to itch my foot. I don't know, it's just laying there itching. I don't know. Could be the poison ivy I walked through. No, couldn't be that. All right, let's look at this. We got a full show tonight. Now let's look at this. The National Law Review. Vaccinate or terminate mandatory vaccination as workplace policy. Now, this was several days ago. It was Tuesday, July 28th. This is the first time I'm seeing it. And actually, what I'm going to do here is try to make this bigger because it's teeny tiny, even for me. The discovery, testing, and mass deployment of a COVID-19 vaccine are... Okay, good. I thought they were going to make me have a membership or something to see this. The discovery, testing, and mass deployment of a COVID-19 vaccine are welcome developments in potentially ending the CV pandemic. A safe and wide available vaccine will also allow employees to return to the physical workplace. The benefits of an inoculated and presumably safe and healthy workforce are obvious. Employees immune from COVID-19 will experience fewer absences because they are healthy, and so are the people that they care for or that care for them. Offices and other facilities will avoid pandemic-related closures and disruptions associated with deep cleaning and other infection control measures. Inoculated individuals will be able to travel and participate in service, customer and other people facing positions without fear of becoming ill or perpetuating an outbreak and making others ill. And while less obvious incidents of mental health disorders and other very real but debilitating anxiety-related illnesses should wane in the face of actual progress in fighting the pandemic, if a fully or nearly fully inoculated workforce could materially reduce or even eliminate the direct threat the pandemic poses to the workplace, it seems natural to implement a mandatory vaccination program as soon as a COVID-19 vaccine is widely available after healthcare workers, first responders, and others at high risk are vaccinated to ensure employee health and safety. And, of course, we knew this was coming. They are going to make that a policy. I mean, anyone could see that. Anyone can see that. I mean, it's logical. It's just logical that they are going to. And again, people keep saying, yeah, but Trump said it's not going to be mandatory. It won't be mandatory. You can say, no, I don't want it. but you won't be able to work or bank or get on a bus or on a plane. It is coming to that. I mean, you have to look at this logically. I mean, I love President Trump. I really do, but I don't live on pixie dust. And, you know, I think that Trump is saying what he has to say. No, it's not going to be mandatory. And I believe him. I believe that he will say, look, if you want an exemption, if you don't want to take it, then don't. But eventually, it won't come from him. It'll come from the workplaces that say, look, we don't want you here unless you're vaccinated. Sorry. No, you can't teach school here unless you're vaccinated. I'm sorry, your child can't attend this daycare unless they're vaccinated. You know that's going to happen. And it won't be coming from President Trump. It'll be coming from people that own businesses and the people that make decisions about schools and so forth, and the airline industry and so forth. It won't be coming from Trump. So we have to look at this, you know. Now, I'm praying that it doesn't come to this. But you can see this coming a mile away. It's very, very evident. So, while the benefits of a fully immune workforce seem clear, what is less obvious are the legitimate objections that employees may have regarding a mandatory vaccination program and the legal basis for those objections. If a vaccine makes most individuals immune, then the fact that some unvaccinated individuals may carry out or potentially transmit the virus does not create the same direct and wide threat the current pandemic inarguably poses now to the greater population that is largely susceptible and not immune. In addition, some individuals may be medically unable to be vaccinated, or they may have sincere religious objections, both of which grounds may provide a legal basis upon which to refuse vaccination. As a result, private employers considering making COVID-19 vaccination a private employers considering making COVID-19 vaccination a gatekeeping employment condition should proceed with caution. And so they're saying that, yes, that it's true. Employers are going to want to implement this because, you know, they probably believe the hype. But, you know, and they're saying, well, this could be a problem because there could be people that, you know, are genuinely able to refuse this vaccine. Either they have immune compromised systems, or they have religious objections, or what have you. And I do see that becoming an issue in the future, because you will have people literally suing companies because they have had an exemption and the company is saying, no, you've got to be vaccinated, blah, blah, blah. So I don't know. I don't know how all this is going to play out, but we have to look at it, you know, and take the rose-colored glasses off and see that we are not living in the same world we were living in before 2020. I'm telling you, when the clock struck midnight and it turned 2020, all hell broke loose on this earth. I don't know, I don't get it, but it has. We are not living in the same world anymore. You can tell that every day. They talk about the new normal. Well, thank you. I don't want a new normal. But because this is definitely not normal. Not any of this is normal. Any of it. It's absolutely ridiculous. There are so many contradictions in what they're telling us that just do not make sense. Like Gretchen Whitmer saying, well, you can go out on the water if you're in a canoe, but you can't go in a motorboat. What? Okay. They just are making up rules arbitrarily, whether they make sense or not, and you've got to follow them. So, yeah, I think we will have a fight on our hands with the vaccine in refusing it. Now, I intend to refuse it, yes, but I'm also not of the mindset to think that I won't have to fight for that right. Now, I'm not talking fighting with guns and whatever, but you may have to legally fight it. I don't know. But you can see where I'm coming from, right? And I know there are people that just say, well, trust the plan. Well, no. I don't trust any man's plan, not because he's a man per se, I mean mankind, including women in that, because, well, do you trust mankind to bring a utopia? Because I don't. I'm just saying. Now, yes, I like Trump. I like Trump a lot. I think that he's got kahunas like no one before him, of steel. I think that he is brilliant. I think he is a very good politician, even though he's not a politician. That's what makes him so good. He's an excellent businessman. He's done a lot of good for this country. But, you know, do I just blindly trust them? No. No. I mean, yes, if I had to vote today, I'd vote for Trump. Absolutely. There's not anybody on the Democrat side that I would ever vote for. Not anyone. But I think you know where I'm going with this. Anyway, says the EEOC first tackled mandatory vaccination in 2009 in response to the H1N1 swine flu pandemic and incorporated it into guidance established law concerning medical testing and religious objections. In its publication, Pandemic Preparedness for the Workplace, the EEOC provided guidance regarding disability-related medical inquiries and medical examinations that might be relevant in a pandemic. As part of the 2009 guidance, the EEOC unequivocally concluded that both the ADA and Title 8 prohibited an employer from compelling its employees to be vaccinated for influenza, regardless of their medical condition or religious beliefs, even during a pandemic. And yet, they force, see, here's the thing. You're reading this right here and it sounds, oh, well, see, they can't force us. Okay, any of you who work for a hospital, don't they force you to take a flu vaccine every year? Well, not the vaccine, but the flu shot. Don't they force you to take that every year? You can't object to that. Not that I've ever been aware of, not from the people that I've heard that work in medical facilities, but I could be wrong. I've been wrong before. Anyway, so I kind of bring this up, and I'm not going to read all of this because it's long, but I'm just bringing this up to, I think you all know how I feel about this, and that I believe that sooner or later it will be mandated. Now, I'm not saying that there won't be exceptions or that you can't wiggle out of it through maybe religious exemptions, or, I mean, I could argue that I'm immune compromised and can't take a vaccine. So I think I would probably be out of it. But then Canada does not have any laws mandating mandatory vaccines of any kind. So I don't believe, anyway. That's what I've been told. I'm going to have to look into that a little further. So anyway, let's leave that now because it's a little depressing if you ask me. And let's look at this. Yeah, let's look at this first. Can't remember what this is. Must be something good though. Oh yes, I'm not going to read all this because it's getting late and I do have some other things I want to get to, but Xi Jinping is saying that he's raising the alarm over expected food shortages because a huge portion of his land is underwater, not completely underwater, but flooded. It says after severe flooding, about one-sixth of China is soaked in water. Much of these lands serve as the main grain growing regions. Both China's President Xi Jinping and Vice Premier Hu Jintao recently talked about the food insecurity. Editor's note, meaning food shortages, the pandemic, flooding, the deterioration of Sino-U.S. relations, and the complex international situation are all directly or indirectly affecting food security. So they are expecting and they are warning that they will have food shortages because a sixth of their land, and you know how many people, I mean, China is packed. I mean, packed. So when a sixth of their land is underwater, not able to grow, or the crops are ruined, then yeah, that's going to affect them big time. Now, I would hope, now I realize, I know a lot of you will disagree with me because you say, well, China's bad and they've done all this, and yes, their leaders are bad. And maybe there's some bad people in China. There's bad people here, there's bad people everywhere. But I hope that the international community steps up and helps. I really do. And I know it's the government, but the people, I don't know, you have to have some compassion for the people there. Really, I do. All right. Now, oh, that yawn's coming back. I bet I made some of you yawn. All right. Heroic neighbors defend home of Seattle police chief from rioters. Now, this is a nice article. Really, it is. On Sunday night, a group of aggressive protesters, what happened to the peaceful protesters? They've been replaced by the aggressive protesters now. Reportedly targeted the home of Seattle Police Chief Carmen Best. Best sent a letter to the city council urging them to stand up for what is right and end the new way of doing business by mob rule. She condemned them for their silence and not speaking against the lawless rioters. I wanted to update you on recent events, particularly those that occurred late last night. A residence of mine in Snohomish County was targeted by a large group of aggressive protesters late last night, Best wrote in a letter to City Council President Lorenzo Gonzalez and Public Safety Chair Lisa Herbold. The police chief reported that her heroic neighbors succeeded in preventing violence. My neighbors were concerned by such a large group, but they were successful in ensuring the crowd was not able to trespass or engage in other illegal behavior in the area, despite repeated attempts to do so, she wrote. I urge both of you and the entire council to stand up for what is right, Best added. These direct actions against elected officials and especially civil servants like myself are out of line with and go against every democratic principle that guides our nation. Before this devolves into a new way of doing business by mob rule here in Seattle and across the nation, elected officials like you must forcefully call for the end of these tactics. The police chief is correct. These violent mobs have destroyed property, attacked police, and endangered lives. The American system involves representation, allowing citizens to pressure their governments to make crucial reforms rather than engaging in this system. Rioters have engaged in violent acts of destruction that often amount to terrorism. They are attempting to force radical change through mob rule, circumventing the legal process that exists to allow for meaningful reform. So the events of this summer were initiated in a moment of grief and outrage over the murder of George Floyd by Minneapolis police officers and so many other Black and brown people suffering at the hands of injustice, Best added. All of us must ensure that this righteous cause is not lost in the confusion of so many protesters now engaging in violence and intimidation, which many are not speaking against. Americans can agree with Best that many cases of police brutality should spur local reform according to the democratic process without agreeing with the radical claims of Marxist groups like Black Lives Matter, which insist that most aspects of American society trace back to white supremacy. In horrific cases like that of Breonna Taylor, who was killed in the confusion of a plainclothes no-knock raid, there are clear local reforms that citizens should advocate, such as bans on the practice of police in plain clothes busting into people's houses without knocking. In the equally infuriating case of Ahmaud Arbery, a former police officer and his son shot a black man in cold blood, and the police department looked the other way even after the former cop confessed to the heinous crime. The case revealed a horrific old boys club mentality where police will protect former cops from justice, and local responses should focus on breaking up that mentality. In these other cases, criminal prosecutions should punish those directly responsible, and local reforms should address their enablers. Yet many protesters have engaged in wanton destruction, twisting the cause away from specific cases and specific reforms, and instead claiming that these were isolated incidents, prove a menace of white supremacy and structural racism behind the institution of police as a whole, or America as a society. This rhetoric is dangerous and destructive, and the riots must be condemned. Sadly, many Democrats are either looking the other way or shamelessly excusing the violence as acts of peaceful protest. Mob rule cannot be allowed to prevail. Best is correct that it is out of line with and goes against every democratic principle that guides our nation. Those who truly care about George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and Ahmaud Arbery must condemn the riots that wreak havoc on American cities in their names. Our civil society depends on it. Very good. Now, I have something for you guys that you are not going to believe, because I couldn't believe it. And this was sent to me by a friend here in Canada. Not sure where she found it or if it's readily available out there, because I've never seen it and I'm perusing all this stuff all the time. But I cannot show it to you because I'm afraid of what they'll do. So what I'm going to do, look for a link in the first pinned comment. You're going to want to go to that link. Trust me, you're going to want to, because guess who was on Judge Judy at 16 years of age? Guess. What started all these riots? Yeah. Well, his death started all these riots. Well, you're going to want to see him when he was 16 years old on Judge Judy, and you're going to wonder how on earth he lived as long as he did. Really? No, really. So I'm going to put that. It'll be the first pinned link. And please do yourself a favor and watch it and pass it along. All right. I wish I could show it, and maybe I could and get away with it. I don't know. I never know what they're going to ban people for. So, you know, it's just the way it is now, I guess. But all right. So I'll make sure to include that. And no, I will not forget, because I really want people to see this. I was literally, my jaw hit the floor. And then I thought, my gosh, you know, it's a surprise that he's lived as long as he did. Honestly. And I bet you'll come to the same conclusion. You'll go, my gosh. Yeah, really. Okay, now let's see what else we can get into here. This is good news too. He says, we're preserving our land, making our land better and cleaner and safer. President Donald J. Trump is conserving and restoring the majesty of America. President Donald J. Trump is taking historic action to invest in America's national parks and public lands. That is good news to me. Anyway, I think it should be preserved. And let's take a look at this. Told you I had a jam-packed show today. Is Oprah racist? All right. I gotta make sure my tiny phone people can see this. All right, let's go.
Oprah Winfrey. What the hell happened to her? Loved by Americans, especially women, a lot of white women, who helped her become a multi-billionaire. But she doesn't need you anymore, and she's done giving out those free cars. Instead of joy, she's throwing around guilt at white people because of all of our white privilege.
There are white people who are not as powerful as the system of white people, the caste system that's been put in place, but they still, no matter where they are on the rung or the ladder of success, they still have their whiteness.
That's a scene from a very peculiar new show on Apple TV featuring Oprah, Uncomfortable Conversations About Race. Now, it sounded promising, conversation about race. That's a rich topic right now, why not? But it's not a conversation, it's a condescending lecture. Their bottom line, racism is everywhere, and white people perpetrate it and now must atone. Now, Oprah teams up with Emmanuel Acho. He's a 29-year-old ex-football player, now a sports reporter and anchor at Fox. They found the silliest white liberals they could, each of whom wanted to be punished for their, well, racism.
It's impossible to just not be racist. I realized that I either was a racist or an anti-racist.
Exposing myself even more, like put my body where my bodies are.
Yes.
How do we unearth and continue to surface these unconscious biases that we as white people have?
So they confess to all this stuff, and some of this might be what's known as false confessions, telling your superiors what you think they want to hear, but who knows? Anyway, they beat themselves up, then they get beaten up by Oprah and her sidekick.
If you are not careful, your children will live their whole life white. And at 26, 27, they'll end up being a part of the problem because you just let them and allowed them to live a completely white, sheltered, and cultureless life.
You say you've become woke during this period and realize.
Yeah, that's a show I won't be watching. I'm just saying. All right, so there's that. And look at this. I love it. The Stephen Lundgren says, the irony of a billionaire lecturing others about their privilege is astounding. I would agree. I would agree. If this country is so racist, how did Oprah get to be who she is? How did Obama get to be president? I mean, if we're all just hopelessly racist, you'd wonder, wouldn't you? Okay. And this by Eric Trump. On Monday alone, Donald Trump answered 17 questions from reporters. Notice that 17 there, 17 questions from reporters. Joe Biden answered no questions yesterday and has not answered a single question since July 28th. When will Joe stop dodging serious interviews and tough questions? The entire country sees through this sham. And he is completely correct. Yes, yes, they do. Now, let's look at, I think I can go a few more minutes and finish everything that I have for tonight, which is, that hardly ever happens. Okay, this is what the 6-foot social distancing is really about. The better to see you with, my dear, as the wolf said to Little Red Riding Hood. Surveillance cameras cannot distinguish between faces as well unless they are at least 6 feet apart. Shadow game being played on US. So let's look at this. 2018, Cambridge Analytica whistleblower Chris Wiley revealed the political marketing business harvested the personal data of 80+ million Facebook profiles without their consent and used it to analyze best ways of manipulating American voters. Yeah, true. So, isn't that interesting? All the better to see us with. And of course, there are, let's see what else is here. Oh, we don't have time. It's getting too late for that. I'd like to look into this further at some point, though. Okay, well, let's go back. And I can't remember what this is either, but it's got to be something good. Oh, yes, yes, yes. That's right. That's right. Hang on here. Hang on. Let's... Okay. Update. This woman has been identified as Shelby Liggins, 22, of Nashville. She was arrested today by the FBI on a federal charge of malicious destruction of property using fire or explosives. She is being prosecuted in the U.S. District Court. And this was in response to this by the Metro Nashville Police Department. Please help us identify this woman who openly set one of the fires at the historic courthouse Saturday night. Citizens can call, and they give it the number, anonymously, cash reward offered. Well, somebody wanted the cash because they turned that puppy in. And she's a sick puppy at that. Now, I don't want to even call her a puppy because, well, Everybody likes a puppy. Nobody likes an arsonist. All right, so here she is. I bet that, yeah, everybody yelling and encouraging her back then, but I guess wherever she's sitting, whatever jail she's sitting in, I bet you she's not so happy that she lit that place on fire now, and she will pay for her crimes. Why? I don't understand that mindset of wanting to destroy things. I don't. I mean, there are proper ways to get things done, and that is just making everyone look bad. I mean, it makes the cause look bad, which of course we know all about that, but we know all about the cause and that it has nothing to do with Black lives or helping anyone Black. It helps no one. It helps the Democrat Party. That's about it. All right. And let's see what else we have. Okay, it's about compliance, not science. Virginia officials demand students get vaccinations to participate in online learning from home. I know, you can't make this stuff up. It's so crazy. And have we as a nation lost our critical thinking skills to the point where we don't question this? I'm just wondering. Public health officials in Virginia are warning prospective students to get all the required vaccinations before the start of school year in order to do online virtual learning from their home. If parents do not comply and do not show proof their kid got the injections, then their kid won't be able to access the online learning materials provided by the school district. This is a threat. It is also a lie, an empty threat, because children belong to their parents, not to the state. I think people feel like if you're not going to the brick and mortar school, then you don't need to have the immunizations, but that's incorrect, said Fairfax County Health Department worker Shauna Severo, speaking with NBC4 in Washington. The controlling public health official is lying. There are legal exemptions for any and all vaccinations for school children in Virginia. These exemptions are constantly under assault in each state, but they do exist as long as the parents realize how important their freedom is to make medical choices for their own family. According to the Virginia law, 12 VAC 5-1110-80, no certificate of immunization shall be required of any student for admission to school if the student or his parent or guardian submits notarized certificate of religious exemption, Form CRE1, to the admitting official of the school to which the student is seeking admission. Form CRE1 is an affidavit stating that the administration of immunizing agents conflicts with the student's religious tenets or practices. It's all about compliance as controllers try to force vaccinations on kids learning from home. Of course it is. It's now apparent that vaccination coverage is all about compliance, not health. Why do officials want to force children to take liability-free inoculations when these children will be learning from the confines of their home? How intrusive will these controlling people get? There's nothing in these vaccinations that enhances a child's immune system, no antiviral prophylactics, no minerals like zinc that will stop viral replication. Vaccines do not contain vitamin C, so they cannot boost thymus gland function nor strengthen the adaptive immune response. They do not contain vitamin D and therefore do not strengthen the intercellular T cell response to viral infection. There's nothing in a vaccine that strengthens a child's microbiome, enhancing their immune system's ability to detect and react quickly to invading pathogens. If anything, there are enough side effects listed on the vaccine insert sheets to make any rational parent second guess the safety and effectiveness of the inoculations. Forced to do online learning, students across the nation are being conditioned to fear their own immune system and be ignorant of how it works and adapt adapts to its environment. Instead, they are taught that they are biological sources of contamination, always infecting others with infections they don't even have. Forced to stay in their homes, children are being mentally abused to accept a life of fear and false guilt. When they are included in school activities, they are lined up and spaced out like prisoners, forcibly masked and monitored. Virginia is now setting up pop-up clinics to make sure that school children are inoculated with the CDC's bloated vaccine schedule, which has not been studied as a whole for safety. Parents are told to make appointments beforehand. Virginia officials are desperate to force compliance because vaccination rates have plummeted in 2020. During the initial lockdowns, vaccination coverage plummeted as parents avoided contact with medical facilities. Ironically, the mortality rate for infants plummeted during this time as well. The drop-off in inoculations for infants coincided with a historically low cases of SIDS, which is sudden infant death syndrome. Parents are still avoiding the medical system and vaccination rates are down. Many are starting to see the rampant coercion in the vaccine industry and how vaccine makers are shielded from legal liability when their products harm people. More parents are skeptical of how many vaccinations they submit their child to and are speaking up at pediatrician offices. In the end, the threats from public health officials in Virginia are empty and have no legal or constitutional authority. Parents have the final say what goes into their child's body, especially when they are facilitating their child's education from home. So, if you live in Virginia, take note. They are trying to intimidate you. They are trying to make you inoculate your children, but there are exemptions. So take advantage of them. I mean, really, because of the fact that there are fetal cells in there, you know, I could argue against it for religious reasons because I don't agree with fetal cells being used for that purpose or any purpose whatsoever. I know. Not a very popular stance, but that's how I feel. All right. Well, I think that is it, but look at this right here. This is what I'm going to post, okay? Right here. This guy on Judge Judy, age 16. All right, I'm going to put that in the first pinned comment. It'll be there. So that is it for tonight. I think I'm going to sign off, and I'm only doing one video tonight because I spent most of the day looking into that explosion and some other items. So there's only one video today, and I'll be back. I'll see you in the next video. It just won't be tonight. So you guys have a wonderful night. Sleep well, stay safe, and keep coming back here because, you know, I miss you when you're not here. So yeah, and if you like the channel and like the content, consider supporting us on Patreon or through PayPal or Coffee or pray for the channel. That is a big means of support as well as prayer. So thank you guys so much. You stay safe, and we will talk to you soon. Good night.